I'm just going to start somewhere here in chapter 14. And they, being the Israelites, and they said unto Moses, because there were no graves in Egypt, thou hast taken us away to die in the wilderness. Wherefore hast thou dealt thus with us to carry us forth out of Egypt? Is it not the word that we did tell thee in Egypt, saying, let us alone, that we may serve the Egyptians? For it had been better for us to serve the Egyptians than that we should die in the wilderness. We've been enslaved for how long? Well, they're finally out of Egypt, and it'd be better if we were serving the Egyptians than dying out here. And Moses said unto the people, fear ye not. Stand still and see the salvation of the Lord, which he will show to you today. For the Egyptians whom ye see today, ye shall see them again no more forever. The Lord shall fight for you, and ye shall hold your peace. And the Lord said unto Moses, wherefore criest thou unto me? Speak unto the children of Israel, that they go forward. And do we know what happens after that? The Israelites were against the Red Sea. They couldn't go nowhere. Pharaoh and all his guys were on the other side of their fiery pillar there. They couldn't get to them. I'll tell you what, I'll just read it. How about that? But lift up thy rod, and stretch out thy hand over the sea, and divide it. And the children of Israel shall go on dry ground through the midst of the sea. And I, behold, I will harden the hearts of the Egyptians, and they shall follow them. And I will get me honor upon Pharaoh, and upon all his host, upon his chariots, and upon his horsemen. And the Egyptians shall know that I am the Lord, when I have gotten me honor upon Pharaoh, upon his chariots, and upon his horsemen. And the angel of God, which went before the camp of Israel, removed and went behind them. And the pillar of the cloud went from before their faces, and stood behind them. And it came between the camp of the Egyptians and the camp of Israel. And it was a cloud and darkness to them, but it gave light by night to these, so that the one came not near the other all the night. And Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and the Lord caused the sea to go back by a strong east wind all that night, and made the sea dry land, and the waters were divided. And the children of Israel went into the midst of the sea upon the dry ground, and the waters were a wall unto them on their right hand and on their left. And the Egyptians pursued and went in after them in the midst of the sea, even all Pharaoh's horsemen, his chariots, and his horsemen. All of Pharaoh's horses, his chariots, and his horsemen. And it came to pass that in the morning watch the Lord looked unto the host of the Egyptians through the pillar of fire and of the cloud, and troubled the host of the Egyptians, and took off their chariot wheels, that they drive them heavily. So that the Egyptians said, Let us flee from the face of Israel, for the Lord fighteth for them against the Egyptians. And the Lord said unto Moses, Stretch out thy hand over the sea, that the waters may come again upon the Egyptians, upon their chariots, and upon their horsemen. And Moses stretched forth his hand over the sea, and the sea returned to his strength when the morning appeared, and the Egyptians fled against it. And the Lord overthrew the Egyptians in the midst of the sea. And the waters returned and covered the chariots and the horsemen, and all the host of Pharaoh that came into the sea after them. There remained not so much as one of them. But the children of Israel walked upon dry land in the midst of the sea, and the waters were a wall unto them on their right hand and on their left hand. Thus the Lord saved Israel that day out of the hand of the Egyptians. And Israel saw the Egyptians dead upon the seashore. And Israel saw the great work which the Lord did upon the Egyptians. And the people feared the Lord, and believed the Lord, and his servant Moses. I read all that to read this again. And Moses said unto the people, Fear not, fear ye not, stand still, and see the salvation of the Lord. Stand still. Kind of like the preaching we heard the other day. You know?
So that one, why?
When life lays down on you, sometimes we just have to stand still. Like standing still kind of goes against our grain, doesn't it? When we feel like we usually need to be doing something, right, wrong, or otherwise. Sometimes we just need to stand still and let the Lord do what he needs to do. Right? Let's see here. These words contain God's command to the believer when he is reduced to great straits and brought into extraordinary difficulties. He cannot retreat. They couldn't go back. The Egyptians were behind him. He can't go forward. The Red Sea was in front of him. He is shut up on the right hand and on the left. What is he now to do? The Master's words to him is, stand still. It will be well for him if at such times he listens only to his Master's word. Oftentimes do we do that?
Not really.
Yeah. For others, and evil advisors come with their suggestions. Despair whispers, lie down and die. Give it all up. Does that sound about right? But God would have us put on a cheerful courage, and even in our worst times, rejoice in His love and faithfulness. I don't think that's to look at everything through rose-colored glasses, is it? We are to rejoice in God. Cowardice says, retreat, go back to the worldling's way of actions. You can't play the Christian's part, it's too difficult. Relinquish your principles. But, however much Satan may urge this course upon you, you cannot follow it if you are a child of God. His divine fate has bid thee go from strength to strength, and so thou shalt. And neither death nor hell shall turn thee from thy course. What if for a while thou art called to stand still? Yet this is but to renew thy strength for some greater advance in due time. Precipitancy cries, do something. Stir yourself. To stand still and wait is sheer idleness. We must be doing something at once. We must do it, so we think, instead of looking to the Lord, who will not only do something, but will do everything. Excuse me. Presumption boast, if the sea be before you, march into it and expect a miracle. But faith listens neither to presumption, nor to despair, nor to cowardice, nor to precipitancy. Did I say the word right?
Not twice.
But it hears God say, stand still, and immovable as a rock it stands. Stand still. Keep the posture of an upright man, ready for action, expecting further orders, cheerfully and patiently awaiting the directing voice, and it will not be long ere God shall say to you, as distinctively as Moses said to the people of Israel, go forward. The Israelites coming out of Egypt. And it had to have been obviously an exciting time, but also a hard time. Not knowing, but, sometimes we are just to stand still. If the Israelites would have just kept murmuring and complaining, and if they had tried to flee, they wouldn't have seen the salvation of the Lord. Pharaoh's men would have got them. If we don't stand still and allow the Lord to do what He would do, our adversaries are going to get us. Sometimes we get ourselves, I know for a lot of folks, waiting, it's a hard thing to do. You know, it is. Because we've been programmed, you know, gotta do something. Gotta keep marching. Gotta this or that, you know. And yes, we need to keep that in context. And
I think a lot of it boils down to trust. I mean, when we get anxious, and to an extent, sometimes we're displaying our lack of trust in God. How many times have we said to the children, you know, X, Y, or Z, and they say, but, and you know, we try to encourage them, but do X, Y, and Z, but then we finally break down and say, "We just trust me on this one. It's going to be better if we do it this way."
Yep. You know, yeah, if we really feel, you know, the Lord telling us to wait for me to do this. That's what we need to do. Because if we don't, we're gonna mess it up. Our adversaries will mess it up. Our adversaries, you know, will get bad advice from well-intending, you know, folks. You know, but and maybe the advice is good, sound biblical advice, but the Lord is telling us, stand still. And that's what we need to do. As hard as it may seem, that's what we need to do. And let the Lord work things out. And not ourselves. That's not an excuse to be lazy.
Hey, you did pretty good, Mom.
That's what
The Lord say.
Father, we love and praise you today, and thank you, Lord Jesus, for your goodness. And Father, I pray that you would, you know, just help all of us to, you know, to truly hear what you're telling us, Father. And if you are telling us to stand still from time to time, and you know, to see your salvation, then Father, I pray that we would stand still and allow you to do your mighty work. Help us not to be impatient and just to do the wrong things, Father. Just praying, Lord, that we would hear your voice. We would follow your commands, Lord. We love and we praise you today. In your name we pray. Amen.